Hey, it's Josiah. On today's episode, I was joined by Finch and Rike. Finch was one of the co-hosts on Mammonberg, a show I also used to co-host. She's been on the show a few times now, so you probably know Finch. If you don't, you can go back and listen to some of her episodes. Rike, on the other hand, has not been on the show before. He is a longtime mutual of mine from social media and is also a history teacher in Portugal, which makes him a perfect guest for today's episode, where we discuss no. One second. No.
Não, ou a vanglória de mandar.
No, or the vain glory of command. A film about the history of the Portuguese Empire explored through a conversation between soldiers during the war in Angola. It's a fantastic deconstruction of the historical mythology that empire uses to justify itself. It's a really great movie, and we had a really good time discussing it. But before we get going, I do need to say that you can support this show on Patreon. For a mere $3 a month, you get access to a whole back catalog of exclusive episodes, as well as 2 new ones each month. You also gain access to the Fruitless Discord, as well as the occasional deleted scene from a main feed episode. If you're not quite ready to support the show on Patreon, consider just leaving a review on Apple Podcasts. It helps out with the algorithm, and I might read your review at the top of an episode. All right, with all that out of the way, let's get on with the episode. You are listening to Fruitless, a podcast hosted by me, Josiah Sutton. This is episode 75. Portugal's Bitter No, featuring Rike and Finch. Welcome to another episode of Fruitless. I am joined today by Rike. Hello, Rike.
Hello, what's up?
And I am also joined by Finch. You've been on here before, so.
Yeah. I'm a part of the Fruitless lore by this point.
Yeah. So, Finch has been on here before. You can go back and listen to some of her episodes. They're very good. But Rike, I don't know if people in Fruitless would know you, so tell us a little bit about yourself real quick.
Well, I'm just a shitposter who likes telling people that they're wrong and stupid, basically. That's my entire online presence. I write tweets where I call people dumb and stupid and wrong, and I write some poetry sometimes as well, where I say that I am dumb and stupid and wrong.
And I should say, relevant to today's episode, you, of course, are in Portugal.
Yeah. And I'm also a history teacher, which is also relevant to the movie.
Yep. Yeah, so today we're talking about, and I'm going to just say the translated version of the movie, and rather than butcher my Portuguese here, but no, we're talking about No, or The Vain Glory of Command, a film by, we just walked through how to say Oliveira.
Manoel Oliveira.
Yes. And this is, I think, my first venture into Portuguese film at all, I think. So I'm very happy that you got me to do this. Before we get into the movie, though, could you tell me a little bit about the director here?
Yeah, he's probably the most famous Portuguese director, either nationally or internationally.
Did you say he's kind of like Portugal's Terrence Malick, I think is what you had said in our DMs?
Yeah, that's what the internet told me to say. I have no fucking idea who Terrence Malick is. Okay, that's why Finch is here. I'm just here for the swords and stuff. So he basically, he's an upper middle class guy born still on the last years of the kingdom in the early 1900s. He starts directing pretty soon, but he doesn't really have much of a work, while the Stade Nouveau lasts. The 48-year dictatorship, and it's even after the revolution he has some movies, but he only really starts going big in the 90s, where he's already like 90 years old. He lived to like 106. And I'd say that like everyone in Portugal recognizes the name, but in terms of like actually being familiar with his stuff, ironically, it's like the older stuff, like the more folksy movies, like Niki Bobo in the 1940s, that like are in the popular conscience, and he became more of like a critically acclaimed kind of director in like the 90s.
Sure. And so this film comes out in 1990. It's like right on the cusp of that kind of shift you're talking about. And the film is kind of like a journey through Portuguese history contextualized around some soldiers in Angola. But before we get too much into this, I don't know how aware people listening to this would be of the Portuguese colonial wars. Could you say a little bit about that?
Yeah, well, the Portuguese colonial wars were the ultimate historical mockery of imperialism, where you have a country that is sacrificing its own youth for basically 15 years that the war was really active and not just guerrilla, where 40% of the state budget went towards that war in order to try to preserve these last remains of empire, which weren't even really contributing to the welfare of the Portuguese people. Like the major industrial conglomerate that had interest in the colonies was CUF, which still exists to this day, mostly running hospitals for some reason. And they had a lot of dependence on the rubber from Guinea. But in Guinea-Bissau, only the city of Bissau itself was under Portuguese control for most of the war. It was a place where the Portuguese were getting their asses kicked the harder. The Pope had received the leaders of the independence movie of Guinea-Bissau, which caused a diplomatic crisis between the Vatican and Portugal. In Angola and Mozambique, things were more contested, especially in Angola. Like Angola just had its 50th anniversary of independence on the 11th. And I was listening to this podcast from a right-wing newspaper, and they were talking about like, oh, the war was completely controlled in Angola because most of the fighting was being done in the bush away from the cities. And just minutes later being like, yeah, at the time the population of Angola was over 75% rural. So
right.
like,
Well, that would be like saying that about Vietnam. It'd be like it'd be like, that's fucking
we're holding Saigon, so it's fine.
Okay, yeah, that's it. So, okay, I'm mentioning Vietnam there. To what extent do the Portuguese colonial wars kind of line up with for the American understanding, like the Vietnam War, and to what ways are they different?
Well, I think the easiest way to understand it is like, imagine if Vietnam was going on under Donald Trump.
Okay.
Oh my God.
And he was like, everything is going perfectly fine. We just need to send 2 more million soldiers. Okay. The war is practically over. Okay. I've got vital intelligence. I've got the greatest intelligence, not just in my brain, but also in my dossiers. And I can tell you guys, these terrorists are done for. They're done for, folks. We're gonna win. Okay. We're the greatest country I've ever been. And yeah, we had 3 Vietnams, and I was telling you about Guinea and Angola, but like Mozambique was even a more fucked up case.
Sure.
Because like the governor of Mozambique, he was doing his fucking moves. He was doing like an Ian Smith kind of shit. He had like his own paramilitaries, and he was actually planning to secede from Portugal because he was seeing where the wind was going, and he wanted to basically create like a Portuguese Rhodesia in Mozambique.
Okay. Oh my God.
So yeah, we've got like all sorts of scenarios in these different countries.
That's insane. You know, I also think probably like, as much as it's easy for the American imagination to compare it to Vietnam, I think there probably is probably better comparison would be Algeria with France, in that it like the whole wars here triggered a crisis at home as well, in an extent that it caused with Portugal a coup, a revolution, right? And with France, it was more like de Gaulle was able to consolidate a bunch of power and use a constitutional crisis. But either way, there's like this brutal decolonial war that's deeply unpopular that eventually erodes the structures back in the metropole.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, to people, I'm not, it's hard to speak of hypotheticals, but the people really were very, very neutered by the regime. And you see that, like, even in the movie, in the attitudes of some soldiers, and not even just in, like, the most reactionary ones, because, like, the regime, it managed to survive the Second World War, and so, like, it managed to raise 2 generations of people in its schools when the people were at least comfortable enough in their families to be able to go to school instead of having to work the fields as soon as they learned to sign their own name. And this really was the catalyst, because people don't like dying.
Turns out.
As much as you try to convince them that Angola is a part of Portugal, and like fucking shit, like my grandfather, when he was in the 4th grade, he learned all the railroads in Angola from memory.
Wow.
And like he that was something that he held for the rest of his life. And even before he died, like I'd ask him, like, what was the use of learning that? And he was like, I don't know. I just did.
It was like a cultural sense of ownership over the colonies. Like your average everyday citizen in Portugal felt like they had a relationship with the colonies. Is that right?
Yeah, because you had to have the colonies in order to justify the myth of the expansion and of the discoveries. Because if you did all of that and then you lost the colonies, then what would be the point of it?
That's really interesting, because I think that's like very different than in the US with like the territories that aren't states, right? Like Americans often know very little about like Puerto Rico or something like that, right? It's just whatever's out there. And I don't know to what extent other colonial powers, how much ownership your average everyday citizen felt over the colonies. I'd be curious to know that. Yeah, so the film itself, as we said, kind of starts off following some soldiers that are in Angola. And we were laughing off mic before we started recording. Rike was talking about what you were saying, American-brained Portuguese people who were frustrated with the film for not having Hollywood.
Yeah, like you just you get like the average 19 or 20-year-old who wants to get some pussy in college, and they're like, I'm gonna watch, I heard my grandmother talk about Manoel Oliveira, maybe I'm gonna watch one of his movies. And then they're like, holy shit, this is boring as fuck. and that's like basically the reception.
You can't blame them. Their brains are like addled by TikTok at this
I
point.
know.
It's like, well, I mean, you can, but
you can blame them a little bit. Well, there's kind of an interesting thing I think happening where slow cinema in general is kind of having a resurgence because of how overstimulating modern life is. I've seen a lot of people who talk about like really enjoying the experience of a Tarkovsky movie or something like that, in part because you get a fucking 5-minute shot of a leaf or whatever, and you just don't get that space in modern life to just like contemplate something. And so this movie, why I was bringing up the whole America Brain thing is I think it's funny to have that complaint about this movie, because this movie doesn't hide that it's going to be doing that, because we open with like a 5-minute shot of a tree. Like it's just very slowly following a tree as it moves past it.
You see it all the way around, and no matter from where you see it, it's just the same thing.
Yeah.
I wonder if that has any relation with any theme of the movie.
I wonder if there's some symbolism here. I think I feel like I locked right into the movie's vibe pretty quick with like after you have that tree, it cuts to them in the back of this like vehicle or whatever driving through Angola, and it just does these like beautiful like portrait shots of each of the characters that are going to be talking and monologuing throughout the film, and they're just looking directly at the camera, which I don't know, there's something that it like breaks down a lot of I don't know, your distance from those characters in the way that that's shot. Peter Watkins, I just put out for like today, put out an episode on Punishment Park, which is one of my favorite movies by the filmmaker Peter Watkins. That's a big thing he does, is like really intentionally make the actors look into the camera, and so you kind of like break down your distance from them. And I think that's like a good way to kind of establish these characters before they say a word. You kind of get a vibe of like, I don't know, that they're traumatized from being here in some way, and that they're really kind of unsure of why they're here. Like you already get that sense before they've said a word.
Yeah. Also, I think like it's very effective in showing like just how boring war is.
Yeah,
like those times, those periods in between where you're just sitting there contemplating.
Right. The Hollywood movie is explosions nonstop. And this movie, you get one battle, I guess, whatever you want to call it, at the end. That's it. You know, aside from that, like when it's with the stuff that's in Angola, there's just quiet talking boredom.
It reminds me of like a poster that the Angolans made some years ago, because a lot of the propaganda of the Estado Novo was centered around basically the little dick syndrome. And so they have like these posters of like a European map with all the Portuguese colonies laid over them, and then with the subtitle, Portugal is not a small country. And the Angolans did like a reverse one where they had the map of Angola. They had like the fucking map of Angola, and then they put like a bunch of Portugals inside of it saying Angola is not a small country. They can fit fucking dozens of Portugals in there. It's really a huge country. And most of the war really was that, just like moving around in trucks going at like 30 miles an hour through bush, through savanna, through the jungle, sometimes in the north.
And this is where we get to kind of these opening monologues. And, you know, I don't know if I'd quite said exactly what this does, but it's the movie follows this conversation between these soldiers, and they're kind of having a conversation about why are we here? And what is the purpose of this war? And naturally, this leads the dumb patriotic kind of soldiers to be like, well, we're here because of you know the nation, because of the great Portugal, and the two of the other soldiers are much more educated in history. And they start kind of having a back and forth about various flashpoints in Portuguese history and what they actually mean versus how they are mythologized.
And the characters themselves are like really well done, and I think it's like really important. Like you start out just from their mugshots, like you don't really tell the difference between them in psychological terms. You just see that like they're guys that are clearly from like different parts of the country. You know, some of them are swarthier, some of them are like wider, and like I don't know if as a foreigner you really tell the difference.
No, I wouldn't have been able to tell the difference. So yeah, there's subtle ways it does that. Okay.
Yeah, like for example, Brit, which is the guy that has like a little bit more of a socialist understanding, is like a swarthier guy. He's like more tanned with like darker black hair. So you can kind of guess that he's like from Alentejo or maybe from Ribatejo or from the Algarve, but like in a zone that's like very rural and has a lot of influence from the Communist Party at the time. While Private Salvador, like he just like looks like 100% that he's like from the center interior that's like very Catholic, very very much a village culture. And like you have in that truck, like that truck is Portugal. I mean, it's literally the shape of Portugal. It's a rectangle. And the relations between the different ranks themselves, because at this time, it was absolutely necessary for Portugal to have a recourse to conscription. And of course, if someone had been to university, they would be conscripted as a militia officer, which would set them apart from the guys that just like did basic schooling or did no schooling at all. And this was actually like one of the very big factors of the 25th of April for two reasons.
To clarify, 25th of April is the Carnation Revolution, when the military coup, the dictatorship. Just to clarify for American listeners. Keep going.
Yeah, exactly. So number one, the ones that had gone to like the equivalent of West Point or whatever, they were pissed the fuck off because these guys were just being brought from the universities and being given the same rank, the same pay, the same privileges as them. And this is actually what started the movement of the captains, which would lead to the revolution as it got more politicized. But it started over these military matters. And second of all, the fact that you're drafting a bunch of university students into the army and putting them in with a bunch of rednecks and cobblers and shit like that, they're going to be basically fucking imprinting their own ideas onto those people. And that's kind of what you see Cabrita doing and Manoel doing a little bit to a lesser regard because he's more of a skeptic, more of a nihilist. Because that really did happen. Like there were a lot of soldiers that were radicalized by their own officers because of that, because of the way that the militias worked.
Well, I think this is kind of an important difference between Vietnam and the U.S. in this as well, because if I'm correct, a lot of people were able to get out of the draft by being university students, and so then there was a weird divide where the people that were most opposed to the war also didn't have to go to the war as much. And there was then you were able to frame it as a class thing, where it's like actually opposing the war. That's upper class shit here.
Right.
Which is, insane. But that was kind of how the divide was able to develop in the US and create kind of a weird tension that I think we're still living with. As here, I think you were able to kind of mesh both, kind of perspectives or backgrounds in a weird way that allowed the military to get radicalized and eventually to want to end the war. But yeah, so we have Portugal in this truck here, and they begin having this conversation. Again, going through Portuguese history, and the first pit stop here is way back in the Roman conquests of Europe. We're going all back to you had written out that I think is Romanized name Viriathus.
Thank
you. Yes. But then I think they say Viriato in this, right? Is that the more? Okay.
I mean, we don't really have any link to that past at all. Like the Romanization process was so thorough that for you to see like any Celtic identity in Portugal, you have to be like very have like a very deep expertise in folklore, in history, seeing like some lingering pagan elements in some countryside stuff that got Christianized, kind of like with Ireland or something like that. But yeah, like they start their first conversation about the purpose of the war. Salvador is like, this is like our land because we conquered it hundreds of years ago, and the great powers are trying to get it. And then they start talking about like, okay, so like, what does it mean for these people that are here? Like, this is their land. Like, we are kind of uniting them. Like, one of them even says like, by being here, we're like conglomerating the different tribes, and they wouldn't even be able to like have any national identity if it wasn't with opposition to the Portuguese. And then one of them eventually says like, my fatherland is my own village, and that conversation leads back to Viriato, and it leads back to the Celtiberian people of Iberia. There were several different tribes. Basically, the Celtics, they invaded Iberia, like with the rest of Europe. They mixed with some native Iberian people, but mostly they stayed in like the northwest, while the southeast was like more influenced by the Greeks and by the Phoenicians and became like more cosmopolitan, which is something that would be like maintained like after the Roman period, after the Moorish period. Like that zone was always richer. And in here, in the hills, in the mountains, there were these tribes that became legendary, especially the Lusitanians, due to their fierceness against the Romans. And the story tells that Viriatus was basically invincible, and that he struck fear into the hearts of the Romans, which is something that we have to take with a grain of salt, because if the Romans lost a battle, they had to justify why they lost that battle to their own people, so we can't really be just like taking it, we gotta take it with like a grain of salt about like how mighty these fucking shepherds really were.
The Romans were invested in framing them as great warriors or whatever.
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, it's like you have like with the Cold War, like the Russians, they're trained to fight since they're babies, and they're all spies of the NKVD. And like they were just like, I hope I get a good enough grade to become an engineer instead of a tractor driver.
They're just guys,
They're
just guys. They're just people. And to me, of the foundation of Portugal itself is already betrayed by the Portuguese people themselves, or the proto-Portuguese people in this case, when they sell out their own leader to the Romans and murder him.
Well, and it's really interesting they choose to focus it on this because, like you were kind of gesturing at, it all falls apart. This comparison of being like, Portugal begins with these Celtic tribes and with these Iberian tribes, because if we're looking at it that way, then it's like, okay, well then we're Portugal's Rome in this scenario to what it's doing in Africa.
Exactly.
But they have to find a way in which Portugal's the victim in this scenario. So then how they kind of reframe it is like, well, neither the U.S. nor Russia supports these wars, these colonial wars. We're against the world right now. So Rome is everyone else in the world opposing us by doing this horrible colonial war.
Yeah. We are the Rome to the Africans, but the rest of the world is the Rome to us.
Yes. And then, I think that's also funny that they, accidentally realize that like the justification for why they're colonizing Angola is like, well, we united all the tribes and stuff like that is exactly what the Roman justification would be for conquering Iberia.
And it will also be very convenient for the future episodes and like for Portuguese history in general, because it's like we weren't defeated by a foreign power. We are our own enemies. Like we are the ones who are responsible for losing to the Romans. It wasn't the might of the Romans. So we're the greatest warriors. We're still like a chosen people of sorts.
Yeah. So realizing that, okay, well, this isn't a good place to start the story of Portugal. Okay, that this isn't the birth of Portugal. They decide to go, okay, the birth of Portugal is the Crusades, right? It's, Portugal is Europe's first nation, and they move from that into the war with Castile and Alfonso V.
That was a very interesting episode as well, the way they frame that.
Yeah, I think like one of the gravest mistakes of Marxist historiography is the fact that we're trusting German barbarians to write about history.
Oh my god!
I mean, guys, come on, let's look at this shit. Like, they say that the nations of Europe were birthed in the 19th century. Okay, like that's true for Germany in a very literal sense, and in a cultural sense in France. But when you have an environment like Iberia, or even like Ireland, or like the Balkans, or Italy in the time of Machiavelli, like these constant struggles between different peoples and different states, they create a sense of nation. Like, I remember when I was a baby Marxist as a teenager, and I had a sort of debate with an enlightened right-wing kind of guy, and he was like, how can you deny that nationalism already existed in the Middle Ages? Like, are you really going to say that it's because of class that when the Spanish would try to take over the Kingdom of Portugal through legitimate means, through dynastic unions, and the Portuguese upper classes had everything to gain from that union, and still they rejected it? How can you explain it if not for a sense of nation? And it is true, there was already a sense of nation that was forged not just against the Moors, not just against the Muslim states that had occupied the territory beforehand, but even among the different Iberian kingdoms. Because you have 5 different cultural groups. Originally, you have the Galicians, which are like very far apart from like the other ones, because they had a lot of Swabian rather than Visigothic influence before the Moorish conquest, and so they kept not just their Celtic but like a more pure Germanic mix as well. Then you had the Leonese, which were like the middle ground between the Galicians and the Castilians. You had the Catalans, who were more influenced by French culture and by Mediterranean civilization. And then you had the Basques, the people up in those mountains that had kept their traditions for thousands of years before even recorded history exists, and that just standed there forever and never like gave up their identity. And so these clashes, like they are portrayed in the history books as Christians against Muslims. But for example, the first king of Portugal, Dom Afonso Henriques, he is captured when taking the city of Badajoz, which is today in Spain, because the armies of the Castilians had counter-sieged him when he was taking it, and he was basically captured. And in return for his liberty, he had to return beyond the river Tagus. So there was a collusion between the Muslim prince and the Castilian prince against him. And you also see you have these alliances even where you have marriages between the children of Christians and Muslims without any problem. It's like a chessboard that was filled with constant war and constant scheming that would define the way that the Iberian peoples are until our modern day.
A lot of intrigue going on.
Yeah, well, and I think I guess I had never really thought about it until watching this movie, the idea of Portugal as Europe's first proper like nation, which feels really obvious to me now that it's pointed out, but it just like I hadn't thought of it in that sense that like, yeah, I mean, Europe, like Portugal was formed into a nation proper before the concept of the nation was even fully formed. Like, at least if we're taking the 19th century interpretation seriously, the German barbarian interpretation of European history. Yeah, so I think that's really interesting because Portugal ends up representing kind of within the movie as well, like kind of the first to touch modernity, like they are the navigators. They were like, so much of modernity gets associated, much later on with like, the factories coming out of Britain and nationalism sweeping Italy and Germany and the Napoleonic Wars, stuff like that. But it begins with the colonial adventures of Portugal.
The age of navigation, age of exploration, I guess.
It's very awkward to teach this because like in modern history manuals, they always like to point out like that the discoveries were basically the first example of globalization. And it's like a bit uncomfortable to be talking about that because we're not really talking about something that was voluntary. We're not talking about like equal trade between different groups. But then again, if we talk about globalization in the 19th century, the British Empire wasn't exactly a charitable organization.
Right.
But yeah, like from the moment that like Portugal has to define itself for its own survival, as the other Iberian states will have to do, and despite doing so, most of them end up being conquered by Castile, which will create troubles literally until 20 years ago was the last time the Basques killed a politician in Madrid.
Yep.
Oh my God.
Yeah, like that's why it's so different from the rest of Europe. Because if you're in France, for example, you have the Bretons, you have the Aquitanians, you have the Normans. They all speak their own peasant languages, but as long as you just ask them to pay taxes, they're fine, and you're fine with them. And the boiling pot of Iberia would result in a completely different way of like seeing the world. And with Portugal being like the last Iberian state that not only resisted Castile, but that could be taking over Castile itself at some points. It was sort of a Promethean destiny for Portugal that would sort of encourage what is to come in other episodes.
Well, we have the Battle of Toro here, which is this episode they're zooming in on. Where they describe Portugal as neither vanquished nor victor. Could you say a little bit about what was going on with this battle? Why this is such an important moment for Portuguese history?
Well, in terms of Portuguese history, we just bury this shit, actually.
Oh, okay.
Like everything between the foundation of the kingdom and like the first time that the Castilians invade us, we just say like, oh yeah, we were at war with them every now and then. Some border towns switched places in peace treaties. We tried to invade them. They tried to invade us. And the importance of this battle, I think it's more symbolical than historical, because you have, like, in this attempt to create an Iberian Empire, you have the prefiguration of the future attempt at creating the Fifth Empire, the biblical ultimate empire. And I mean, it's just this episode. You just, like, I don't think you can really talk about it. You just have to, like, really see it.
Yeah.
Like the imagery in it, like how pathetic the entire episode is. Like the little cannonballs, and mostly the scene of Udspad, the maimed one, who keeps getting, like, his hands cut, and he's trying to hold on to the flag despite it all.
Yeah.
Like the way that it's both heroic and pathetical at the same time.
Which I think
he was very calm for a guy who got both of his hands chopped off, though. You gotta admit that's admirable. He was not screaming at all.
I mean, he couldn't be screaming because he had to hold on to the wood with his teeth.
He was using it as, like, he was just biting down for the pain.
Like, that's really, like, the first image that you get of, like, what the colonial war really is like. Like, you have, like, this guy that is, like, completely faithful to an ideal, to these ridiculous limits that almost seem like parody, just to hold on to a fucking flag, to a fucking piece of fabric that means absolutely nothing other than what it means to himself.
Yeah. And I think, you had said pathetic and heroic simultaneously, which I think is kind of like what goes on to be the theme throughout all of this, is that the language being used to describe it is often very heroic, but then, you know, what the American-brained people watching this who are like, oh, this is such stilted dialogue, or these battle scenes are very silly, or whatever. What they're missing is that's seemingly very intentional. Like, these battles seem pathetic, kind of intentionally, you know? It's like this horrible human cost, but also it's like people lining up and then getting shot, and then lining up and then getting shot.
I would say, I would go even further. I would say they're both simultaneously extravagant and pathetic. I mentioned this before we started recording. I definitely got, like, vibes of Kurosawa, like the similar imagery of Ron, where that was all practical effects. That was all horsemen. Yeah. And you could see it here is all practical. But one of the images that sticks out to me, I think, when Rike and I were watching it, was the flag. It's one of the flags that has the symbols of, I think it was Castile and the lion, the purple lion, was it?
Yeah, because they were claiming the thrones of Castilla and Leon, which had unified by that point. It's sort of like with the flag of England when they have, like, the claim to France, and so they put the lions on the upper left and lower right with, like, the French arms on the other fields, and you have, like, the Portuguese arms in prevalence with, like, the arms of Castile, the yellow castle in the red background, and you have the arms of Leon, the purple lion in the white background on the other fields, which, like, you would see nowadays in, like, the flag of the King of England in Buckingham Castle. He has, like, the Scottish satire and the Irish satire as well, and so it was a sort of, like, it was a symbolic incorporation, and really saying that, like, these are different kingdoms, these are different peoples, and we are the ones who have the right to rule them, even if they are not part of Portugal directly.
Let's see. From here, we go on to, the next attempt at forming an Iberian Empire, which is a royal marriage, an attempt at a royal marriage here. So it was Prince Alfonso's daughter to the, let's see, I don't know my history here very well. Who's getting married?
It's the son of the prince who had defended the camp.
Right.
I mean, I don't know why the fuck he looks so fucking stoned in the movie. I think that's probably why he fell off his horse.
Yeah.
But yeah, like if we couldn't do it by force and they couldn't conquer us by force either, let's do it through peaceful means, for the sake of our Catholic faith, for the sake of the peace of our people. Let's unite our countries peacefully and look outwards. And then by a simple desire of fate, he dies in an accident, and all those hopes are dashed.
Falls off a horse and gets trampled, right?
Yeah, all the festivities, all the partying, all the happiness is suddenly gone and replaced by the mourning of that prince.
Yeah. There's a lot of what ifs in that scene as well, which I wanted to discuss with you guys.
Yeah.
Not nothing to do with my horse obsession, but there was like that scene where like he tries to get on the mule and then the stirrup breaks, so he decides to go on the Lusitano horse as well. Instead, and then that horse like trips and he gets thrown. The horse is fine, which was kind of surprising because they are animals with glass bones, but that's non sequitur. But just like, I don't know, what do you think do you think that was sort of like a illustration of choice? Like if he had gone on the mule, it could have been different, or
I took it as really underlining just how much of a freak accident this is, because you have like before it, he doesn't want to go, and then he gets talked into going, and it's like every little detail, it almost doesn't happen, even down to like it's the whole accident of the stirrup breaking on the mule, so then he gets on the horse. Like it's all these little things that almost feel like anything going differently could have prevented this from happening. But it was almost destiny. And, lining up with like later on where this kind of movie goes, this idea that like God is saying no to Portugal is the theme that keeps coming, where the title of the film comes from. It feels like that. It feels like divine intervention. like God does not want an Iberian empire.
Yeah, it's really like the opposite of the idea of choice and of like making the right decisions, because like no matter what would happen, like he was going to die. He was going to fucking die. He could keep like dodging it if he wanted, but he was going to die.
And it felt like the Final Destination movie.
Yeah. If you go on the horse or you go on the mule, your neck is still going to get broken.
Regardless, this guy's dead. Yeah, and I do think, you mentioned him seeming so stoned. A lot of the stilted performances in the kind of historical reenactment scenes, I think, I like how weirdly stilted a lot of the performances are. I think it gives it like this really surreal feel. It made me think of, God, what's the Herzog film? Sorry to bring up another German. What is it? Is it Heart of Glass? Is that the name? Is that the movie I'm thinking of where he hypnotized a bunch of people? Heart of Glass is the one where he supposedly hypnotized everybody involved in it, and the performances feel like that to me.
Very theatrical.
And so at the kind of like the funeral of the dead prince, this is where we get the introduction of the God saying no idea. That's like kind of central to the movie.
But still, like the bishop doesn't recognize it as being fate. He says that it is a punishment for our sins. Like he's still like coping with it. Like if we were only better, we could do it. Like it isn't a lost cause. It just wasn't done right.
It's not our time yet.
Again.
Yeah.
Right. And it's I don't know. I think that's kind of interesting because I think the film kind of gets to a point where it's saying, well, if maybe it is for their sins, but the sin is the desire to make Portugal this grand thing. That is the sin. And he doesn't see it that way. He sees it as our ambitions have been denied because of our sinful nature thus far. But if we could just get more Catholic about it, we'll get this figured out.
We just need to shave our hair every week instead of every 2 weeks. And instead of wearing hair shirts, we can wear like chainmail with barbs on the inside to rend our flesh, and then we'll be allowed to rule the world.
That was an incredible imagery. I think I pointed out to you of, I think, who is Alphonse's dad, John the second. I'm gonna John the second. João. Yeah, the second.
Wow.
And he's just fully shaved. He had like a long hair and beard, and he just looks so shaved and despondent.
Yeah.
They're almost skeletal in a certain way. I thought that's like an image that was burned into my mind.
And, as we get back into Angola here, the soldiers are kind of like trying to decide, well, why did this happen? Why, what was the sin that allowed this to happen? And somebody says, well, it was God's punishment toward a loveless marriage. That it was just a marriage of political, expediency or whatever. And then another one's like, no, it's the other way around. It was God's punishment because they loved each other too much. They weren't concerned with, Portugal and the future of Portugal. And the one of the smarter guys, I don't remember which of the two, does what I think the film's perspective is, which is no, it was God's wrath against our ambition, against ambitions not intended for Portugal. And this is around the time that the troops in Angola they stop to eat. And while they're stopping and eating, one soldier is reading a letter from his girlfriend, and they get into some gender about it. We get the awesome takes of your rank and file Portuguese soldier about the role of women in society.
Oh my god.
We do a little insult them as a treat.
That sort of reflects kind of the gender dynamics of the Estado Novo at that time, though, right? Like women were supposed to be homemakers and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
it doesn't really matter, whatever the fuck they thought about politics. They all pretty much think the same thing about women, just with different levels of mistrust.
That is a bit true.
The patriotic one is like, I have a girlfriend who's waiting for me back home, and she's keeping her legs shut. And if she doesn't, then I'll just slit her fucking throat.
Right? Yeah. They're like, or one of them's like, oh yeah, a woman's job is to wait for her soldier to come home. Like that's one of the lines that, yeah.
Like the nihilist guys are just like, the more nihilist guys are just like, it's fucking, why would you even have a girlfriend before coming here? Like, do you want to feel more longing for home? Are you that fucking stupid? Like, I'll just wait. If I survive this war, then I'll get a girlfriend. Like, even if you survive, you don't know if you'll return with all your legs and all your arms anyway, so...
I think of the sexist options that are provided here, I feel like that one is actually the least sexist in my head, because his idea is like, what? So I leave this. There's a degree of empathy for the woman in this scenario. This idea of like, okay, I'm going to ditch this woman for several years and then come back missing my legs and they have to take care of me. Like, that's a fucked up situation to put someone in. And there's some acknowledgement of that I felt there's at least a degree of empathy for women in it. And during this kind of conversation, they get back onto history and what I think it's, the most educated guy kind of talks about how, the Greeks and Romans their empires live on not in the amount of land they conquered and the political structures they set up, but in their contribution to civilization broadly. So the Greeks and the Romans, what made what their greatness wasn't, how much they conquered or whatever, but their contributions to philosophy and to whatever, right? And, as they're kind of having this moment with, okay, well, what's Portugal's legacy? Which I think is kind of a haunting conversation they're having, because there's an implication that they know where things are going. They kind of know that the war's not... We're starting to talk in the past tense about the Portuguese Empire while in Angola. Yeah. And they land on, well, the contribution of Portugal was the discoveries, was navigation, the great technological advancements that allowed people to circumnavigate the globe. This is what our contribution is. And this leads us into the most surreal scene in the whole movie, which is the only time it gets explicitly mythological. Every time it's like a mythologized look at a historical event that did actually happen. This is where we just get into, pure mythology, which is, I don't know. Could you help me paint a picture of what's happening here exactly? Yeah.
Finch, I'm gonna let you take this one on to just explain it briefly in a way that Americans can understand to Lusiads.
Oh, okay. That's a lot of pressure. Okay, but you have to correct me if I'm wrong at any point.
Yeah, I will. Don't worry.
Okay.
You will be wrong, and I will correct you.
Please explain this for my stupid American listeners.
Yeah, so this is the Lusiads is an epic poem by Camões, who I will not say is he's the Portugal's greatest poet. And basically it is an epic poem about the discoveries and about, I believe, Vasco da Gama's voyage. Yes. I think this was written around the Inquisition, so he couldn't say like God is doing this or God is doing that, so he uses like the Greek gods in like certain positions. So there are like certain Greek gods, like he sort of superimposes Zeus and Christ to be on the side of the Portuguese and willing them forward. And then you have, I think, Venus as well, who's kind of giving them her blessings.
Because we're hot.
Because you're
And
hot.
we're the sons of Rome.
You are hot. But then you also have like these gods who are opposing them, like Neptune, I think, is sort of like, he's kind of flip-flopping a bit. He's like,
Yeah, Neptune is flip-flopping. She just wants the neighbors to stop their dog from barking in his sea. Like the real enemy is Dionysus. It's the foreigner, the one god that was a foreigner even in Athens, who was always associated with the East and with the hedonistic and lustful pleasures. And he's the one who's really the opponent of Portugal. Because, Mars supports us because we war very well, we're very good at killing people, so he's on our side. Basically, it's a fan fiction of the Aeneid. Or rather, in this one, it's more of the Odyssey. But of course, Camões is going to take a lot more from Virgilius than from the Greeks. Like, imagine him as a sort of a mix between Shakespeare and Virgil.
Okay.
yeah, I can see that.
He basically created the modern Portuguese language as we know it, in the same way that Shakespeare did with English. And what Manoel de Oliveira does is not to erase the Lusiads, but to invert them. And so this tale of conquest and glory becomes a tale of sorrow and death. And the only thing that is redeemed from it is the episode that ironically was censored for hundreds of years because of its erotic content, the Island of Love, which, as you can see by my background on Zoom, is where I'm currently located. I just had some oysters, I've had some meads.
Oh my
Life is
God.
good. All my homies are getting their dicks blown around me. It's
Oh
fine.
my God, you're on the Island of Love and you didn't even invite me?
There's the only bitches allowed are the nymphs. Okay?
Oh my God!
I didn't make the rules. They
You
are
better
half
not be-
divine.
You better not be with a nymph that looks like me.
This would be really funny. I guess we never formally said that you two are dating.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's probably really
I
weird.
swear,
for
I'm
people
just here with the
listening.
boys, okay? I'm behaving.
Okay,
I'll be
honey.
home tomorrow. I'll be home
right.
tomorrow.
All right.
And basically, the idea is that because of the quote that he said, like, I'm translating from Portuguese. I don't know how it was in the subtitles right now, but it was like, territorial conquests are worth little. They serve the powerful for a moment or for a certain era. But what stays, what really counts, is what the man gives, what he creates, what he transmits, what he offers others. Only that remains, and only that has valor. The rest, what you take, what you impose, what you conquer, all of that is lost. And the Island of Love is the moment where, like, you kind of have the Portuguese getting their rewards, doing what Donald Trump did to Bill Clinton, as we have found out in recent emails.
Yeah, it's
like the part where the soldiers like, yeah, and then like the Tetis took him to the top and he showed him the machine of the world, and one of the soldiers is like, what is the machine of the world? And the second highest ranking one, Manoel, is like, it's a pussy, man.
Yeah, this scene is really interesting. This scene was the weirdest to watch for me, only because I was watching it on the TV in my living room, and this was the only point that my girlfriend started looking up. And you have these like nude cherub children running around, and she's like, "What the fuck are you watching?" Like, it's for a podcast, you know.
It's artistic, I swear.
It's very, very weird.
I'm not an American politician.
No, yeah. So it was, very, very, very surreal scene though. A lot of beautiful cinematography in it and stuff. This is kind of at the center of the film. So it is kind of like, I think it's up until this point the longest detour we've gotten. You know what I mean? Like it's each episode feels like it spends more time with the historical subject each time. Like the original like Roman conquest stuff is very fast, and then a lot of these historical scenes are done pretty quickly, and then this is where you start getting these like long things, which will eventually build up to the longest one toward the end. And around this time, they're also talking about, you'd mentioned earlier the concept of the Fifth Empire. I think this is also something that might not be people in the US might not be super aware of. So maybe it is good to quickly talk about the idea of the Fifth Empire, which is the idea of like the kingdom of God come to earth, united Catholic empire, right? That's the idea. Could you say a little bit about the importance of the idea of the Fifth Empire in I don't know, Catholic history in general, I guess?
I thought that, as an ex-evangelical former Bible thumper, that you could like set up the base of it in the scriptures, and then I'd just like take it from like where the Portuguese took it.
Well, I'm trying to
basically from this biblical vision where there's like a statue that's made with like different materials, and like the head is made of bronze, and the chest of iron, and the legs of something, and the clay, and the feet of clay, and each material in the statue basically represented a different power in the world. And the way that Padre António Vieira, a Portuguese priest, contemporary of Camões, took it was that after the four empires which had passed, the Portuguese Empire would be the final one, would unite all the peoples of the world under the same banner, under the Catholic faith, with only the existence of the Portuguese emperor and the Pope.
Yeah, so it's very much an idea of universal Catholicism, very much the universality of Catholicism. Well, and it's interesting that the idea of how they're talking about it is that it would be something that could happen peacefully. I think that's interesting because they keep talking about this like peaceful utopia or whatever, but it's like, by definition, we all kind of understand that can't happen peacefully. You can't conquer the world peacefully. Like,
it's like the idea that if you get Iraqi women to wear blue jeans, then they'll just join as the 51st state. We need to promote LGBT rights in Mali in order to counter the influence of the military. It's kind of that idea in an early modern setting. And I don't think that it's something that Portuguese people can really escape, even when they have leftist and progressive policies. I mean, even these singers and poets after the revolution, like Zé Mário Branco, Ari dos Santos, they looked back on the sea with this idea of it's something that could be remade into a gift rather than a claim. And that we could take the sea back for the people, and we could be like an element of compassion and human understanding if we only did it in like a communist way instead of like a Catholic way.
Sure.
So it's like something very global to Portugal, even when people aren't really aware of it. But in these two cases, like they are really aware of it, and they do talk about it in their poetry and in their songs. There was also the most famous Portuguese writer outside of Portugal, which is Fernando Pessoa, who just like takes it to an esoteric, like fucking almost an Evolian level. Because he was like a fucking Rosicrucian astrologist. Like he was the most autistic man in the history of Portugal. So he would be like basically like a normal German citizen nowadays.
Oh my god!
Damn it.
He'll had like they have different heteronyms. and he literally did like star charts for each of them.
Okay, yeah.
Like, and this is before the internet. You can just go into a website and just Google like what the sky looked like. This man was in the fucking libraries. Imagine this guy in the National Archives for weeks, trying to read the skies of where his imaginary characters were born. To fucking write their fucking star charts.
Hey, that's dedicated OC creation right there.
That's right. Yeah.
And then, like he like believed in his Rosicrucian proto-fascist mysticism that like this is an idea that we can use. We can use the idea of these peasants in order to like bring about the ultimate destiny of Portugal. And I'm just sitting here by the seaside. I'm looking at the boats in the harbor and I'm crying. I'm crying so hard because I see Portugal fading away and becoming more impoverished with each passing second. But if we try hard enough, if we imagine hard enough, then we can convince everyone else to be our bitches. And that is basically the entire plot of my favorite poetry book, Mensagem.
Well, during the conversation about the Fifth Empire, they have a good little line, too, about the idea that perhaps the Fifth Empire is being, in a horrific way, accomplished through the proliferation of nuclear weapons. That the USSR and America have created some sort of horrible peace with it, which I thought was like an interesting little bit that it kind of passes over. Well, okay, and this drifts us into the whole thing that'll kind of become really central toward the end here, which is King Sebastian and Sebastianism. Of course, I'm saying a very anglicized pronunciation there, but do you want to tell me a little bit about King Sebastian? What's going on here?
Yeah, well, it was a really tough spot dynastically for Portugal because, one of the bad things about the kingdom, where it's the kings that hold power, is that you need to have a king to hold power.
Yes.
Yeah.
So if people are more busy with like drinking wine and taking swims on the beach or whatever, rather than making babies, and then they die, that can be a big problem. And Sebastian really was the last hope for Portugal. Like his father died while he was in his mother's womb, and there was literally no one else to take the throne. That's why he's called O Desejado, the desired one, because of that. But of course, it's kind of difficult to talk about this in detail because we can never be sure. But, there's only so many ways that a child can catch gonorrhea,
Oh my God.
Oh my God.
So that happens. He was also rumored to have been driven mad by syphilis. And by the way, we think that the one who did it was his confessor, the one who molested him.
Jesus Christ.
Oh my God.
And basically you have this guy that has a rotting brain and a rotting dick, and he's like, I can't get married because,
Yeah.
So how the fuck do I go to heaven? Of course, that's the only way that I can go to heaven is if I kill Muslims.
Yes.
And so he embarks on his crusade because of that. He rejects all diplomatic overtures. He is just focused on his single goal, that if he believes hard enough, then his wishes are going to come true.
We call that manifesting in the modern day.
Yeah, he was manifesting.
But he was very ambitious in his goals, too, because I think he wanted to conquer all of North Africa and Rome and Jerusalem. Like, he wanted to make sort of like a second Roman Empire, am I right?
Can't really speculate much about his goals, but he did want to take Jerusalem in the end. We do know that. Everything else, it's just irrelevant. It's just dust. Who cares about it? It's just delusions of the time. Portuguese history has 900 years as a country, so we kind of have to skip ahead to the most relevant stuff rather than musing on and on about it because of something that happened 3 Americas ago.
Okay.
Well, I mean, and so, like, what is the kind of general attitude toward King Sebastian? Because, like, there's also kind of a messianic thing associated with him, right? With this, like, hidden one thing, this idea that he would, like, return. So is there a positive, like, kind of general association with him, or what?
I mean, there's a lot of cope, basically.
Okay, yeah.
Like the way that he was brought up and the way that he was expected by people, it's lifted him up a lot in the ideas of people. He was the fucking Anakin Skywalker or whatever, to use a metaphor that your barbaric people can understand.
No, that helps. Thank you.
Yeah.
As the Iranians said, like, if we wanted to kill American heroes, who could he kill? We would like blow up a statue of Batman.
Blow up SpongeBob.
Yeah,
And
man, I wish we could beat those allegations, but I don't think we ever will.
They never recovered his body.
Right.
The Moroccans said they have his body, and that they stuck his head on a pike at the gates of the city for like 200 years. But we just cope with that. We just deny it. The myth of Sebastianism really got popular with like a play from the 17th century, I believe. Or maybe I'm confusing it with another one. Yeah, there was another one that was done during the dictatorship where it was kind of involved with the themes, like it was basically a veiled critique of the regime. And but in popular consciousness, people weren't seriously saying it, but they were like, oh yeah, like, you know, Sebastian is just gonna come back on a misty day to save the country. You know, whenever there was any trouble, they'd be like, yeah, whatever, you know, just wait until Sebastian and everything will be fine. It was just a very I don't think it was ever a serious concept until the 20th century, until Fernando Pessoa tried to make a mystical thing out of it. And this idea, it's kind of like the idea that like Israelis have of the Messiah, of like, you know, the Messiah is just this guy that will just kill all the Palestinians and become king, and that's it. But you don't really see like the Hasidics in Brooklyn having the same ideas. They're a little bit more nuanced, but it's basically the simplistic explanation of like, there's going to be a very magical man that will come and kill all of our enemies and make us very powerful. Which is something that is mocked very easily, and that is also adhered to directly or indirectly very easily as well.
Well, yeah, so this is where we get the most extended, like, historical reenactment kind of scene here, which is, you know, zooming in on the day that King Sebastian dies, which was during the Battle of Three Kings. Is that what it's called? Yeah. Because 3 kings died that day. And, you know, we get, this is where we get the same actors that are the soldiers in Angola, you know, while they're having this discussion, suddenly become figures in this historical moment at the camp, you know, before the Battle of the Three Kings. And they're kind of speculating about whether the king has gone insane, and we're getting kind of this kind of reference to the going mad with syphilis stuff you were talking about. And there's I think there's a moment where some characters speculate that, like, can we arrest the king? No, we can't. We're not allowed to do that. So I guess we can pray for him. So let's pray, man. And yeah, so you know, and they're wanting to arrest the king because he's just like executing people for no fucking reason. He's gone completely insane, whatever. And we get out to this moment where they're, you know, out in the battlefield now, and they're preparing. And this is God, this is probably my favorite scene in the whole movie, I think, is this whole battle scene. One, because shows exactly the kind of patheticness we were talking about. There's a lot of that in this, where it's just people lining up and dying, and then lining up and dying, you know, once the battle starts. But, you know, we have this scene with they're being pelted with cannons, and it's like, yeah, these like plastic cannonballs knocking people over. But I think it's still a really haunting scene. Yeah. Because it's, they're saying Hail Mary. They're doing the Hail Mary. And they're not permitted to leave or move or anything, so they're just standing there with the priest guiding them, reciting Hail Mary while just dying.
Yeah, King Sebastian's on his horse, Ara farming. Ara farming.
I mean, all the soldiers are like when the bell rings and your teacher hasn't let you leave the classroom, and you just like stand up in your seat and then you sit back down.
Yeah,
Also,
because
like, I'd like to go back to like the campfire because like that's really relevant
go for
because
it.
there are basically three ways in which the main characters relate to the visions.
Yeah.
Which is like in the scene of Viriato's betrayal or the Battle of Toro or the marriage, like they are there as characters in that vision, representing the fact that these are their ancestors, directly or indirectly, whatever. In the scene of Ta Ilha do Amor, the Love Island, they are not there at all because that is an idealized moment. That is not something real. That is something surreal. That is not them. That is simply a representation of what should be. And then in the camp, like they are there not just as characters, but they are there as themselves because they're in fucking Africa.
Yeah.
They're in enemy territory in a war that they didn't sign up for, that is led by a mad king. Like that is literally done in that moment.
It's making a direct comparison.
Also, like, don't forget that like King Sebastian was a redhead, so they were probably saying shit like, "There's a fucking Cheeto in the throne room."
That's right.
A hashtag no kings. Hashtag okay, maybe kings, but like not this king. Hashtag why did we give the king all the power and now we can't arrest the king?
Yeah, there's some parallels.
They're making some witty signs up in the streets of Lisbon that people.
They were dressing in like jester outfits because all the town criers were talking about the hooligans that were protesting the king.
They're outside agitators from Castile, obviously.
That's right. Yeah. So we get into this battle here, and one of the best scenes I think in this is for me anyway is. So you've got the king going to each of the different so you have like German soldiers, you have like like lots of different areas like fighting for him, and so he like goes to each group and it's just like courage Germans, or courage whatever, no one moves from here until further orders. And I think this is also lined up with the King Sebastian's asked to like give them a speech or something to give them courage, and he doesn't do it. Yeah,
he's just like, stay the fuck still. Okay, I'm gonna pray now. I'm gonna pray for victory. It doesn't matter that they're shooting us. Just hold on. Okay, and now I'm gonna go with my retinue and just charge in without telling anyone.
Yeah. It's Ara.
So there's this, just like long stretch of them just watching their troops getting gunned down and not ordering them to attack. So there's just this ongoing carnage, and it's very
it's very because there's like some really aesthetically beautiful scenes in that as well, though. Like the priest on horseback, like running with the crucifix in his hands. I think I wrote down for that in my notes, aura.
Yeah.
I think that was the only thing. But it's like a contrast between like the idealized beauty and just also the carnage that you guys are describing. Like the dream is being broken in real time. It's being torn apart in real time.
Yeah, and it's silly, but it's beautiful, and it's weird. It's just got such a good scene. I don't know. And so then King Sebastian eventually just charges without telling anyone to do it. Most of the various other like armies or whatever with them don't charge because they were told to stand until further orders and didn't receive further orders, and it's just a disaster. It's just it's a poorly organized disaster. What the cannons are like coming off of they haven't been set up properly, so the cannons are like falling apart when they're shot.
When they shoot. To the younger people that are hearing us right now, basically, Sebastian is a failed Sigma LARPer / Giga Doomer prince who quailed ranked with Portugal on autofill.
That's right.
I don't know what that means, but it's that.
I think it cleared it up for the Zoomer listeners, which is what I think Alien always makes fun of me about. There's no one who listens to this podcast under 30, I think is what Alien always makes fun of me. So I don't think we're doing this for anybody.
I'm still 29.
Yay.
I'm not told yet.
You're on the younger end of the fruitless listener. But yeah, so blah 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 blah. Let's see. We had like one group disobeyed orders and advanced anyway to fight, but only some of the regiment followed. And yeah, it's I don't know. It's a pathetic, beautiful scene.
Yeah,
and supposedly
the guy that does it is Cabrita.
Yes,
the guy that's like, none of this has any meaning. Like nothing that is taken will last. But like, what the fuck are we doing standing still? Like, if we're going to fight, then just fucking fight.
Yeah,
dismount the fucking horses and go forward.
Yeah, and so like I King Sebastian supposedly kept fighting, after it was clear that defeat was happening. He was supposedly, surrounded and killed in such a brutal way that when the Moors produced the bodies saying, okay, this was King Sebastian, this messianic myth is able to live on because the body's completely unrecognizable, like how badly destroyed it is. And yeah, this is where we get, I think this is where we get the line, because it gets translated in my subtitles as "O glory of leading, O vain envy." But is that where the "O vain glory of command" is that where the title comes from? Is in that moment?
I mean, command itself is a bit of mistranslation, because the word used in Portuguese is mandar, which is more directly translated as like bossing around. It's what you would say to like your mom, like telling you to turn off the PlayStation. You'd say no mandas em mim. Like it's more like that. It's a bit like more pathetic and more informal than to command. Like you'll not tell your mom, you do not command me, wench.
Okay. It's like, don't tell me what to do. That's
basically. The vainglory of telling people what to do. And the speech of the old man there. The terrible word is the no, or just no, since you guys have a separate language from French for a few hundred years now. It has no right way or backwards. From every side that you take it, it always sounds and says the same. Read it from the beginning to the end, or from the end to the beginning, it is always no. When the rod of Moses became that fierce serpent, so fierce that he ran away to not get bitten, God told him to took her on the backside, and there she lost her figure, her ferocity, and her rage. The non is not like that. Any part that you take it, it is always a serpent. It always bites. It always wounds. It always carries its poison with itself. It kills hope, which is the last remedy that nature left to all evils. There is no ointment that moderates it. There is no art that slows it down. There is no flattery that sweetens it. The more that you sweeten a no, it's always bitter. The more that you decorate it, it's always ugly. The more that you golden it, it's always hay.
It's a really good monologue. And then, so that monologue kind of comes, interspersed in after then what we get right after the Battle of the Three Kings is then in Angola. We return to Angola and they get ambushed. We get our only actual battle from the Portuguese colonial wars here. And actually, there's a really good chunk there where it's like, after we get the "O glory of leading, O vain envy," before we get like the full monologue later, we have like, it cuts back to the soldiers and they're just told, tomorrow we go on patrol. And it's like, after you saw the brutal, pathetic Three Kings battle, it's just so like, oh no, we're gonna go do that, huh?
Yeah.
And they do, like they go out, they go on patrol, they get ambushed. There's a real deep, like, I think I mentioned this while we were recording, but there's a whiplash to how silly the historical reenactment kind of military side felt versus like when we're now in the moment, like the actual sound of automatic weapons it's brutal, and it still has a surreal feel, but it's more like and it's surreal in like, it's not this brutal, but it's surreal in the way like Come and See is surreal, where it'll have like a weird thing it focuses on. So like, there's just like, after they finish shooting, there's just like the sound of wailing, and then like one of the rebels or whatever just like kind of walks in slow motion away, crutching his stomach, which is bleeding, and just screaming in a really eerie way, and no one shoots him. Everyone just kind of watches it. You have one of them get shot because he sees, one of the rebels in the trees, shoots the guy, watches him fall down, and seems to be disturbed by the act of killing or something, because he kind of just stands up in shock and then gets shot. It all has a really surreal feel to it, even though it feels much more real than the previous military stuff we've seen.
Yeah, I mean, that's where everything breaks down.
Mm-hmm.
And you can see like the highlight that is given to the character that's one that's played by Miguel Guilherme, the Private Salvador. I guess it's how he's credited, even though in the movie they say that he's a corporal and not a private. Like he who was like the most like basically the one that's most convinced of the ideology of the state. He shoots the guy, and then like he just starts like wailing and like holding his stomach, and he just like lowers his gun, and then like everyone else stops shooting as well. And then afterwards, like he's like astounded like at what just went on, and he's like, they carried everything on their fucking backs, even the dead and the wounded.
Which I think is like nicely paralleled to, a few of them had been shot and then they advance forward, leaving them behind for a second. And so, you have these bodies behind them that they've kind of abandoned for a second there. And then they see, with the militants, these rebels, they carried their wounded and dead on their backs to escape. It's brutal. And from there, we have them kind of getting, flown away. And then it cuts to the hospital or whatever, and we just kind of go down the row of all these injured people. Some of them are missing legs. They're all fucked up in some way or another. And there's been a line that, one of the characters has been repeating a bunch throughout this, which is that the truth is something secret without explanation, containing ultimate meaning, something like that. And so he's repeating that to himself.
The truth is something secret and unexplainable. Instead of having a logical sense, it is inaccessible truth possesses an ultimate meaning that everything explains.
That's right.
Or will explain.
So he's repeating that line to himself while in kind of a, delirium or whatever.
And like, like rewatching it like a bunch of times as I have, and I like... I'm really intrigued by like his relationship with like the second in command, and like especially the way that they interact in the Battle of Alcácer Quibir, because like he's the one who leads the charge and he survives, and he's like, everything is lost, Portugal is fucking doomed. And the other guy is just like, you'll just get ransomed. Like, life is not over yet. Like, why are you being so fatalistic? It's what you would expect Cabrita to say, and not him. And like, then when he gets wounded in the battle, like, then like the second corporal or whatever rank, like the Manoel goes up to him, and Cabrita says, "This is what war is," and that's like the last thing he says with any sense before he starts losing his mind. Yeah. And he starts like repeating the words about truth and stuff like that.
Yeah, absolutely. It's and so we cut from the hospital back to the Battle of Three Kings, and you have one of them dying, and then one of them monologuing about how, I don't want to die here. Portugal will become great. We'll do it. And the dying soldier says, well, at what cost? Whatever. And then from there we get the mad old man arriving and giving the no monologue that, is kind of the thesis of the whole movie, I would say.
I found it very interesting that he kills himself. Like he literally falls on his sword.
Yeah, it's really good. Yeah, I mean, and it is in that moment. I mean, it's like what we're watching in this carnage is also the death of the empire, very literally, as we're about to get to here with where it where the movie ends off. And so, I think there's like different ways in which the empire goes. These all of them die. There's the pathetic death of this soldier who's like, oh, at what cost? He's just dying. The empire's dying with him, and just, this is it. This is what it is. You have the priest who's like, we commit suicide, death to the empire. You know what I mean? We should kill the empire. And then you have somebody who's like going down like, no, we're going to come back. We're going to come back from this, guys. And in all that, it's like all these different reactions to the end of this thing. And so we come back to the hospital. A guy who's been talking about truth, who's going crazy at this moment. He is given some morphine, and while he's kind of tripping on that morphine, he sees the figure of Sebastian putting his hands around the sword and squeezing it until blood drips down the tip. And then this lines up with him, blood coming out of his mouth in the hospital, and then him dying. And the final scene of the movie is we see like the the report or whatever, medical report of his death once it's sure he's dead. And he writes down the date, and it is April 25th, 1974. Which is the same day of the Carnation Revolution and the kind of end of the Portuguese Empire in some sense.
So, how do we unpack this? Because I mean, I know a lot about history and stuff, but like, what does it really represent when, like, I know, of course, like when Sebastian shows up and he holds up the sword in guard, and then he flips it downwards, into the shape of a crucifix, and then blood drips out. Like, is that him like giving his blood, like in line with like the speech about what remains? I guess it's like symbolically the thing that I took away the most from the hospital scene was just like TI, because you can't really, this idea that like, for me this ends up being like on a much deeper level about the concept of truth. Like, it goes from like war is bad to like Portuguese empire is fake to like empire in itself is fake to like the deeper level where it's like, what does truth mean? What is the purpose of seeking it? And like he's just like spluttering nonsense, and like the camera keeps going to the soldier that is completely bandaged except for his eye. And like as the shots move, like it gets closer and closer to his eye, his terrified eye that is witnessing the whole scene, that is witnessing him like go mad and then like get the morphine shot and then splatter blood and die. So like the only thing in the end is to see truth. You cannot speak it, you cannot explain it. You can only see it, or at least see an approximation of it.
Well, and there's something too, because of the kind of mythology of what Portugal is and what the Portuguese Empire is. They've applied so much meaning and truth to the concept of courage and patriotism in the name of this empire, in the name of this treating the Portuguese Empire as, this, not even just world historical force, but cosmic force, like one that is, going to bring in the Fifth Empire, the Catholic kind of utopia that will, unite the world or whatever. And because of that, because at the end of the day, it's all about the vain ambitions of syphilitic pedophiles, what you've done is abolish truth, because you attached truth to this, and we can see how pathetic it is. And so truth means nothing anymore.
The thing about the known. Like, it strips away all falsehood. It strips away all ideals that are not founded in truth. But since you cannot found anything in truth because you do not know truth, you can barely even approximate the meaning of truth, then everything in the end dies. Everything in the end is rent, it's torn apart by this venomous word.
Well, this is a hell of a movie. I'm so glad you got me to watch this. Yeah. Would you recommend any other of this guy's movies? Would you? I haven't. I'm kind of curious now.
I never watched any other of these guy's movies.
Okay. I'm sure they're good.
I am a millennial, and I am not an art student, so
that's why he's dating a film major.
Right. So. Yeah. So, okay. Do you recommend any of this guy's movies?
Oh, I haven't seen. No, this was the first movie I've watched in his collection. I've been introduced recently to the world of Portuguese cinema, thanks to my boyfriend. So
that's wonderful. It's wonderful. Well. I want to now explore more of it too. So this was really good. I don't know. I really liked it's hard to convey the cinematography in a verbal lens. Like, you should just watch it. It's on YouTube. You can find it there. I'll put a link to that in the show notes if I remember it's definitely just worth the watch. But what I found really cool about it was that the beautiful cinematography and stuff like that was tied to such a clear and I don't know, like really profound reflection on what empire means. And I think it doesn't like you were kind of gesturing at, isn't simplistic. It isn't just like war bad. And that it has a lot more to say than that. It isn't just, an anti-war film. Not that an anti-war film's bad. I love a lot of anti-war films, but it's not just that. It's also completely deconstructing what the mythology that upholds war, like what it means. It is completely deconstructing it, Well, any final thoughts here before we move toward wrapping up? Anything we missed that you want to mention?
Yeah, is that you made the association between the Battle of Alcácer Quibir and the Colonial War, but not with the revolution itself, which is something that he also does.
Interesting.
So he's not just, and this wasn't just a movie of the moment. Like this was done 15 years after the revolution. So it wasn't just like, like what comes next? Like, is this like another lie that we're going to tell ourselves and trip on and get ourselves with this word? Like this was 15 years after. This was like, this too was a folly. So what does that mean for our world? Like, and of course that if you're Portuguese and you look back on history, I mean, you have people that say that the revolution was betrayed, that the forces of capital and NATO have made sure that Portugal wouldn't have a real revolution. You have people that say that the last 50 years of Portuguese history were a mistake and we need to go back. And like it really gets into like, okay, like what can we be sure of now? Like what can we actually believe?
Yeah.
And of course that the answer to that is the Holy Catholic Church. Get your gluten-free communion wafers and join us.
One of my local churches is advertising that is what he's
That's so funny.
You don't want you to shit yourself taking communion.
I could not tell if you were about to say the Holy Catholic Church or the immortal science of Marxism-Leninism. And
what's the fucking difference?
What's the difference?
Yeah, that is the most Rike comment possible.
I mean, that's the thing, though. They both have betrayed the truth. You can't find it in the Communist Party. You can't find it in the Catholic Church. You're just stumbling blindly in the dark. And you have to keep your eyes open in the dark, even though you don't see anything.
That's faith, you think? What faith really is? In certain ways? No? Maybe?
I mean, faith is also convincing yourself that you're seeing something when you're not seeing anything.
That's true.
Yeah.
What's the subtleties between faith and skepticism and all that? I don't know if you guys want to get into that sort of shit or talking about the Carnation Revolution or however you want to end this.
Yeah. Well, I think we'll move toward wrapping it. We'll save a discussion of faith and skepticism for another time, and we'll also save the Carnation Revolution for another time because we do intend to revisit that subject and focus specifically on that subject here sometime next year. So keep your eyes out open for that, I guess. But yeah,
we're going to talk about how DSA is fucking stupid for having a whole faction dedicated to the idea that the American military will bring about socialism, like the Carnation Revolution.
Right. Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah, I think that'll be an interesting thing to get into here. Is with that discussion is the very meaningful difference between the U.S. military and the Carnation Revolution. I mean, what I would say about that before, we don't have to go too deep into it is, what people are coming from with that is that there is a lot more liberalism in the military than sometimes people give it credit for. And that's usually what they're like gesturing at, but that's not the same thing as having a socialism in the military, which there's very little of, if at all.
Yeah, you need to fucking conscript Columbia students into the fucking military, to be honest.
Oh my god.
That's the only way you'll get there.
Yeah.
The woke people's war.
There we go.
They can have Canada Goose uniforms.
And Nike's hats. Nike
I
caps.
also think like it's really
not Nike,
interesting, like
Yankee.
the way that the both of you like really put like the conversations on the track on like a secondary plane to the historical moments. So like especially to Josiah, like leading the progression of the podcast, like you talk like sometimes like how they contextualize this for that, but like I think that like the moments in the track are really like just as important as the episodes, because you really see like, I mean, of course it's different for me because these people are my fucking grandparents and my uncles and shit.
Right.
Like these are shit that I've heard people say my entire life and arguing the same points with each other their entire life. But I think it's like really, really interesting, not just like the way that they interact and the way that their ideas change the way that they each see the world, but also like, you know, their overall evolution. You know, like you have the swarthier guy, the one that's like more revolutionary. Like in the beginning, he's just like, oh, they are fighting for popular democracy. You know, the Soviets, they are helping the people because they believe in the liberation of people. You know, the communists can do nothing wrong because we are good and shit. And then, like, he's the one that's, like, just a few minutes later, he's the one who's, like, more interested in, like, pricking Cabrita's brain about what truth means, about, like, if all these ideologies are fake and will only lead to misery and blood, then how can we reach truth? Like he's like he gets like disillusioned, not in like a nihilistic way, but in like a, okay, like let's seek the truth then. And like you have Manuel, like you know, in the track he's kind of like moderate, I guess, compared to the other ones. Like he doesn't believe in much. He's not as nihilistic as the private Pedro, like the guy who says my village is my homeland. But he's like he starts out in like a kind of detached way, and like he gets more involved as he talks with Cabrita, because he also has some knowledge about history and stuff like that. Like, I think the characters in themselves are also like very interesting.
They're very interesting, yeah. Yeah, I think that's the place where I think I'm at the most, like, not able to quite understand what's going on. You know what I mean? That's I think the stuff that's the most Portugal specific, is like each of these characters really representing very much perspectives that are alive in Portugal to this day. Yeah. Well, I think regardless of the culture gap, people listening to this should still watch the movie. I think you know, we've laid out enough of it that if you watch it now, you'll have a good understanding of what's happening. Because it doesn't do a lot to really like, it doesn't hold your hand with the history. It assumes you're already familiar with it. So like before I watched it, Rike sent me like a nice little like laying out some of the historical events I'm about to witness to understand how it fits into everything. And that was this for you, dear listener. So now you can watch the movie. Look at that. It's great.
Yeah, this is the primer for you. So watch the fucking movie and don't make this a waste of time. I have 4 classes of tests to grade this weekend, okay? And I spent 2 hours here. So if you don't watch this fucking movie, I'm going to go to your fucking hometown and I'm going to build a fucking data center in there to have ChatGPT correct the tests for me. Okay?
God.
Are we understood, dear listener?
We are understood.
We're understood.
Rike, do you want people to follow you on any social media? Is there anything you want to plug while you're here, or Finch is mouthing
what
something?
did you say, Finch?
Oh, I said, why don't you plug your Tumblr with your poems?
No.
Okay.
I mean, you can follow me on Twitter at RikeBoy, and then if you like me, you can go to my Tumblr from there, I guess, if you scroll down
Yeah.
for like 10 inches. because I posted my latest poem like
I
2
think-
days ago. Very inspired
Yes.
by this movie.
I think
It's a
your
very
Twitter
beautiful
is
poem.
also private. So I do like there's various like you have to get past to get initiated. Rike has to accept it, and then you get in, and then you have to be committed enough to look for the
it's currently
Tumblr.
public because I
Oh, it
wanted
is,
to get
okay.
in fights with people, but they don't reply to my quote tweets because they're afraid of me.
They are afraid of him. He's
I am a Sigma warrior,
he is.
and
It's
no
very,
one is going to beat my aura.
it's true.
Well, Finch, do you want to plug anything while you're here?
Yeah, because I'm a shill. So I have
Chill away.
Yeah. Well, you can follow me on Twitter and Blue Sky at Finch O'War. My Twitter's private, my Blue Sky is not, for better or for worse. I also have a Substack as the Lark Flies, which I am terrible at updating because I have terrible ADHD. And
Yep. I know that
I will
feeling.
also. My publications have also been featured in Fairfield County Catholic, and Connecticut Explored is coming out in winter. So if you are interested in Connecticut, which you are probably not,
But if you are,
Which you
Yeah.
should be.
you should be. We're
You
kind of like,
fucking should be.
yeah, we're
Should
kind of like,
sit your ass down and listen to Nutmeggers.
yes, we're kind of like the Portugal of. I'm not going to even make that joke. I'm not even making that. No.
I mean, you're the people who stabbed Viriato in the back, considering you hatched the plot to turn against the government of the United States in the War of 1812,
Oh yeah,
because you're treasonous snakes.
yes, that's
Oh,
true.
yeah.
We did rebel, and we also took like pieces of Ohio for a while, and just
that's awesome.
yeah, that was
That's cool. More people should invade Ohio.
yeah.
And on that note, I think that's it. I think we've wrapped up.
Yeah.
Thank you everybody for listening to this. Hey, thank you so much for listening to today's episode. If you like what you heard, make sure to leave a review on Apple Podcasts. It helps out with the algorithm. And if you really like what you heard, consider supporting the show on Patreon. And one of the benefits of supporting this show on Patreon is that you get your name read out at the end of every episode. So without further ado, this episode is brought to you by our lovely patrons who include Leo Zachary Dickinson. I am once again Philip Cozy. I drink corn syrup. Yum. Vita Breva. Avocai Brodagam. Caleb Sutton. Regular size horse. Parentheses small. Kyle Gannis. Moss. The worst of all possible worlds. Steven aka Spike Stonehand. Gavin Aronson, Joseph Gross, Robert Eilman, Tension Francis, Shy, Randy Sutton, Josh Christensen, Caleb Butler, Ross Ben Daniels, Stephanie R., Frankie Teardrop, Martha Zumak, Benjamin Rawls, Eden Friedenberg, Eden S., James Lunt, A. Aaron, Grouchius Marxius, Ruthus Truthus, Electron Shed, Ficus, Ramble, Light Garden, Jacob Dallas, Kitty Sparks, Allen, and of course, Chris Barker. Thank you so much for listening to today's episode, and I will see you on the Patreon. Bye.
Vem ver as lusitânicas fadigas que eu já de muito longe favoreço, porque das